Hi, I'm Lisette, and welcome to Book Date. Today we're going to be speaking with Peggy Jaeger. So I met Peggy very recently at a romance writers conference that was last weekend because in addition to everything else, I'm a romance writer too, as is Peggy. And we had a long conversation about her name because her name is spelt, her last name is spelt Jaeger, which in German is pronounced Jaeger, which I had a dog named after Chuck Jaeger, but that Jaeger was spelt with a Y because it was the Americanized version. So yes, Peggy insists that her name is Jaeger because we are in America and it's pronounced that way.
And my father-in-law used to always say, if you spell it with a Y, if you say Jaeger, people will spell it with a Y, and then he can't cash his check because it's not his name.
Okay, see, when you put it, when it comes down to money,
Yep.
then now it makes perfect sense. I'm really excited to get to speak to Peggy because every once in a while you meet somebody and you're like, oh, this person is like my writer / reader soulmate. Like this person writes the tropes that I love, reads all the tropes that I love. So I'm really excited to get to speak to Peggy. So Peggy, your latest series or your latest book is in the series. Is it Matched?
It's the matchmaker. It's Heaven's Matchmaker. The
Okay.
title of the town in New England that I invented is Heaven. So it's Heaven's Matchmaker. It's not a religious book. Please, everybody don't think that. It's definitely just about a small town matchmaker.
But a New England small town. See, this is my thing. I love small town romances. I live in a very small town. I love small town romances, but so many of them are Southern.
Right.
And nothing wrong with that at all. But I can't relate. So yeah, I've always wanted to write a like Maine small town romance.
Great.
And it's like, no, these are guys who wear flannel and go out into the woods and
It's
that
cold.
kind of, yeah, and it's cold, which means you want to curl up by a fire and that kind of stuff. Nothing wrong with that. So okay, New England small town romance. And what I loved about your website, which is www.peggyjaeger with a J .com. What I loved is you actually write on your site, graphic and all, talk about what you love to read and what you love to write. Let's talk. Let me ask you the 4 questions, and then we'll get into those. Okay. So first question is, what is your favorite book?
Of all time, I have 2. I have to tell you, this was a hard decision to make. The very first one, my favorite book of all time, is The Little Engine That Could. It's the best book about
It's novel.
It's the best self-motivation book ever written. Okay?
It is.
Favorite romance book of all time is J.D. Robb's New York to Dallas. If you've ever read any of J.D. Robb, who is the doppelganger of Nora Roberts, this is a futuristic police procedural romance. The book New York to Dallas traces the main character Eve Dallas's arc. The last 3 pages of this book, I cry thinking about them. I cry when I reread this book. The best last 3 pages of any book I've ever read. So that's my favorite romance of all time. And it's a futuristic police procedural romance, which is, it's not even a category.
No, it's not. And it's funny because I read the first one of the In Death series.
Naked
in Death. And the characters are, I was reading it because I wanted to know how to write serials. And for people who don't know, a serial is when you have the same character, you follow the same characters over a series, and you're not, whereas a series, you can have like a small town, but you have a new you have a new hero and heroine for each. Yeah. And most people these days, yes, they write series. Nora Roberts / J.D. Robb. What did we figure out during the conference? That she's got something like,
she has 400 books written. The J.D. Robb's book, she's up to number 61. It was supposed to be a trilogy, but the response for it was so phenomenal, people just wanted more. And if you ever want to take a master class and how to write a serial, just read those books from beginning to end.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
will
No, I
learn
mean, they're
character development, character arc, backstory, how to advance a story while doing backstory. I mean, she is the master.
well, and one of the things that I always found interesting is, I mean, because you don't read a lot of serials
No,
anymore. I mean, so it was, as somebody who was trying to figure out how to write one, it was amazing to me. I'm like, how do you like just tease out little bits of character development but make it enough that the reader wants to know more? And she is, yeah, absolutely a masterclass. I mean,
masterclass. She
truly.
introduces new people,
Mhm.
in each of the books that come into the world and stay in her world. And in essence, it's really a relationship. It's a love story relationship book. And how you took this really dark character, she had a terrible background, and how she
Mhm.
brings light to everybody and how everybody puts light in her. It's phenomenal. It's a masterclass. It's a
Yeah,
masterclass.
yeah, it was, yeah, and
So that's
I
your
mean,
number
the
one book. It's number 30 something book too. It's not even the first one. It's like
yeah,
number 33, 32, 33, and it's New York to Dallas.
yeah, okay, okay. Gonna have to pick that one up.
Big
I didn't
recommendation.
get that far in the serial, but I may have to pick that one up. Okay, so your favorite book, we've talked a little bit about why. Were there particular tropes? I mean,
Yes.
other than the fact that it's a masterclass
Yeah.
in how to write those, um, why in particular that book?
The original relationship between Eve Dallas and who becomes her husband, Rourke, they
Mhm,
start out as an adversary. So if you want to look at the trope, they weren't quite enemies to lovers, but they kind of were because
mhm,
he had secrets. He was a suspect in a murder. She's
mhm,
a police lieutenant. So it starts out as enemies to lovers. It grows, of course, into a marriage relationship. And there's all these things that she puts in called the marriage rules. So you're learning about what makes a romance grow in real life, the foibles that come into it. There's always different, there's friends to lovers in the book. There's another enemies to lovers subplot in the book between Peabody and McNabb, two of her cohorts. There's just like a lot of different ways that she incorporates two of my favorite tropes, which are enemies to lovers and friends to lovers. I like to write enemies to friends to lovers. Friends to lovers is my favorite trope because I love to figure out who's going to fall and who's going to say their feelings first.
right,
Sometimes it's the guy, sometimes it's the girl. There's a new trope that a lot of people are writing now called He Falls First. Jill Shalvis has a new book that's coming out in July with that title, He Falls First. So that's another way of incorporating my favorite, Friends to Lovers, into a
yeah.
new trope, and I love it.
It is amazing to me how many people I talk to that their favorite trope is friends to lovers. Yet if you look, if you do a search on Amazon, it's so hard to find. You can actually, on Amazon, you can actually call out enemies to lovers as a
Oh, yeah,
trope.
yeah.
And you can't friends to lovers.
No,
It doesn't,
because
I mean, they act like it doesn't
to
exist.
others too. If you have an animosity relationship, like a workplace relationship where you're enemies to lovers, you can show that in the cover. You can
Mhm.
actually put the two people, at crossroads in the cover. It's very difficult for friends to lovers because then you're just going to have like an embrace, and that could just be any kind of a romance.
Right, right, right. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about why that particular book of La Nora's is your favorite. So we talked also a little bit about what your favorite tropes are. Are there other tropes that you on your website you talk about what tropes you like to read and what tropes you like to write?
Yeah.
So let's talk about a little bit about that. So
So
how
in the
did that?
subgenre of romantic suspense, I have a romantic suspense series, and they were all forced proximity bodyguard tropes. I love a situation where you take two people who shouldn't be together
Mhm,
on paper or anywhere else, and you make them see how similar they are and how dissimilar they are by forcing them to be in a situation together. So in one of my books, in A Shot at Love, they're forced to run away together because he's protecting her. He's an FBI agent who has to protect her because she witnessed a mob shooting and they're coming
mhm,
after her. They go to a cabin in the woods that's owned by one of her friends. Nobody knows where they are. They're very dissimilar and they learn to live together. They're very different people. Um, the first book in that series is called Cooking with Candy. She has somebody who's trying to kill her. He's been hired to protect her, and he has to move in with her into her realm. And it's very unlike his realm. So his whole lifestyle is private. He has friends, but he keeps them private. She's a celebrity. She's a chef celebrity. She's on TV, like, a good Martha Stewart kind of person. So he's got to go into that world. He has to learn. She has to learn. I love that. I love knowing what each person is going to not give up, but give on
Mm-hmm.
to have the other person welcomed into their life. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that. So
Yeah.
I liked forced proximity. I like Love on the Run. That's another one that's kind of like forced proximity. You see a lot of love on the run in romantic suspense where they have
Mm-hmm.
to run away from their problem so that they can stay alive. I like that too.
Yeah. No, forced proximity is, I read a ton of forced proximity in like across subgenres. I always seem to like end up back there somehow. Okay,
Another way,
so
I'll just give one more example. Another
sure.
way you can show forced proximity without it being a romantic suspense is, the cabin in the woods at Christmas time. Say,
Mm-hmm.
you've got two
Snowed
people,
in.
workplace romance, and unfortunately you've got these people in a retreat, they're snowed in. That's forced proximity. How do they navigate through that?
Yep. Well, I mean, I love the workplace romance where there's very clearly rules about not having workplace romances.
Correct.
It's like,
Correct.
okay, so you've got these two people, I mean, especially in a contemporary, they want, on the one hand, they want to be together. On the other hand, they can't be together. On the other hand, they don't know if they want to be together. And, yeah, so
And then
it's,
you have to deal with the whole, workplace romance. There are rules now.
mhm,
So who's going to suspend the rules? Are we going to suspend the rules? What happens if we do this and it doesn't work out? There's a lot to consider.
yeah, no,
And I
it's,
love
yeah, they're fun.
that angst.
Okay. So what is your favorite genre or
Romantic
subgenre?
suspense is my favorite. Romance
Okay.
is my favorite genre. Subgenre
Yeah.
is romantic suspense.
Okay.
Second would be
But
small town. Small town is second.
I was gonna say, but you're writing small town now.
Right.
Okay.
Well, again, if you what do you like to read? I like to read romantic suspense. What's my favorite genre to write? Small town. I live in a small
Gotcha.
town. I grew up with Peyton Place, which was, scandalous back in the day. Now it would be rated like G. If you went to the movies, you get a G rating. I love small town foibles. I love I love a secret that everybody knows, but the new person in town. I love stuff like that. And that's what I write.
Yeah. I may be a little bit younger than you. I grew up with 80s soap operas, Luke and Laura.
Yeah, look at Laura. Oh my God. I was in college watching them. The whole, they got married.
High school. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you're just a few years
I
older.
just turned
Yeah, I mean,
65 on Monday. I'm not afraid to say it. I turned 65 this past Monday. So that's my
okay.
age. I am right
Congratulations.
between
Happy birthday.
the boomers and what came after the boomers, Gen X. I'm like a boomy
Well, that's
X. I'm a boomy X. That's what I am.
uh, so I call us the baby gloomers.
Okay, there you
So
go.
baby boomers got sex, drugs, and rock and
Yep,
roll, and baby gloomers got Reagan and AIDS.
correct. I was a latchkey
Does that-
kid. That falls right in there.
So, all right. So where was I going with this? Okay. So we've gotten your favorite book is New York to Dallas. Your favorite, why it's your favorite book, the wonderful Nora Robb.
Yep.
Or what is it? JD
JD Robb.
Robb. JD Robb. Nora Roberts. And all her wonderfulness and character development and all of those great things.
Yep.
The tropes you love are small town and
Well, that's not a trope. It's a
forced
subgenre.
proximity.
Small town is a subgenre. It's not a
Okay,
trope
true.
per se. What happens in the small town? Friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, workplace
Right.
romance, medical romance, all those things later in life. Those are the ones that go into small town. But one of my favorite tropes is forced proximity. And in a
So
small
yes,
town, that's easy.
yes, yeah,
Who would
yeah.
know?
I live in a town of 1,200 people,
Oh,
so
small.
yeah.
Wow. Wow. You live forced proximity.
Yes, yes. Unfortunately, yeah. My sister lives right around the corner from me, and we joke that it's like no matter what, like if somebody waves to you, it doesn't matter if you don't know them. Doesn't matter. smile and wave, smile and wave. It's fine. Just keep,
I used to
yeah.
tell my daughter when she was little that she couldn't do anything wrong because if she tripped on Main Street, I got 5 phone calls before she walked through the door. So she grew up with that. I
That's
can't do anything
cool.
wrong because everybody will know. And I actually like that. I like
Yeah.
that. That whole "it takes a village" thing, that's where it comes from.
Yes. No, absolutely. All right. And your favorite romance subgenre
Small town.
is small town.
Small
Well,
town.
yes. No, well to yes, small town to read.
To write, no,
And
to
then
read, my favorite subgenre to read is sub-romantic suspense. My favorite
okay,
to write is small town.
small town. Gotcha. Okay. So, all of that information,
It's a lot.
how does that, and I'm convinced that you've already thought about this. How does all of that affect your writing? How do you choose the projects you choose? Um how do you decide what's the next book in that series? How, that kind of thing.
It's very easy, and I think part of it is because I do live in a small town. I'm very nosy. I will talk to a rock. I don't care. I just love I love learning about people. I was a nurse for many years, and whenever I was a floor nurse. So whenever anybody was admitted, you had to take a history. And
Mhm.
I think I was destined to be a nurse because I love finding out everything about people. And I love knowing what motivates them. So I'm the type of person that I will go to my small town Panera and I will watch people I don't know. I'll notice their quirks. I'll notice how they interact with the workers, how they interact with others, what kind of car they drive, all those things. And in my head, I'm always making up stories for people. So when I sit down to write, I'm a plotter, because again, I'm a nurse. So
Mhm.
I don't write a word unless the entire book is plotted out. When I come down to write, I know everything about that person, like I grew up in a small town with them. And
Mhm.
I can predict where their behavior is going to take them. I can predict what they're going to say. Every now and again, they'll surprise me with something that'll come out of their mouth. But then I think it's not really a surprise. If you thought a little bit more about it, you'd realize it should happen that way. So
Yep.
that's how I approach my writing. With the romantic suspense, I think life is suspenseful. Not knowing something is anxiety producing. That's suspenseful. Not knowing, not to be political, but I don't know if I'm going to have my Medicare. That's suspenseful. I mean, all these little things. I'm
Right.
walking my dog down the road. There's a dog coming at us. Oh, is it a friendly dog? Is that
Yeah.
suspense? So all of those things incorporated together are always running around in my mind. So when I sit down to write, all that stuff comes into a character, comes into a story, and then I just try to make it make sense to the reader because it makes sense to me. But my mind, it's all over here. It's got to be focused on a page. I
Yeah,
know what I mean. I got to let you know what I mean.
I don't know what to call myself anymore. I mean, sort of a plancer?
Planter.
Um,
If you
yeah,
plot end pants, that's a planter.
yeah. So I'm very rigorous about my characters and their development,
Hmm.
and then I've kind of got waypoints for my plot. So,
Hmm.
I sort of know where they're going, but romance especially is so character driven.
It is.
That yeah, it is.
I mean, I know my characters first. I'll give you a little insight. I'm writing
Sure.
a police procedural. Well, I wrote a non-romance FBI serial killer book last year. It got unbelievable reviews, and people wanted a sequel. So I'm doing the sequel now. But I do this with my romance books too. On index cards, I have everything about the
Hmm.
character, and then I have a picture of what they look like. And like you said, I am very rigid when it comes to my characters. I know everything about them. I know, you know, what leg they put their pants on first.
Yep.
I know, what kind of makeup they use. I know all this stuff. It doesn't get used in the book, but
No.
just knowing it helps me write them more
Yeah.
fully.
Yeah. And
That's it.
and if you're wondering how small my small town is, we don't have a coffee shop, let alone a national chain like Panera, and we don't have a gas station.
How far away is the closest one?
Um, there's probably one 20 minutes either way,
That's a
either
long
direction.
way. That you can never run out of gas in your town. You always have to have at least a
No.
quarter of a tank. Oh my goodness, that is
Yes.
small. That's smoother than me.
That's why yeah, that's why I wanna write a northern small town romance that, the the river is like, all of the town is on one side of the river, because that is such a Maine, New England
Yep.
thing. Yeah, there's all these quirks that are very, northern small town
I
that you
can think
don't.
of 50 plot lines right now. Somebody new's coming to town. Somebody's stepping, coming down from Canada or on the way someplace else. They're stuck in town. Their car broke down. There's a new business 20 minutes away. This is where they're going to be living. There's a million different things for small town. And that fish out of water is
Yeah,
perfect for small towns.
yeah.
Perfect for
No,
small towns.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um,
I will
okay.
read that when you write that. Give it to me. I'll
I'm
pay
I'm
to
I'm thinking I'm thinking a Jersey girl on the run from her boyfriend meets small town sheriff.
I will pay to read that
I
gladly.
I will take you up on that.
I'm not, I don't say that lightly either. I really don't.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Um, that's fine. Peggy, this has been awesome.
Yes.
I hope you will check out Peggy's book. The third one is
Perfect
just
match.
came
It
out.
just released this
Perfect
month.
match.
It's the tagline is a small town matchmaker meets her match. And it's
Ooh.
later in life. The characters are 40 plus. It's a sweet with heat. There's no sex in the book at all, much less open door, but there's a lot of hot and heavy kisses because my sweet with heat books are very emotion driven. They're very,
Mhm.
very heavily life changing. Like things are happening to these people. So they're very emotion character driven books. So that's my small town. My forced proximity and my romantic suspense are very heavily sexed. So those are the steamy ones.
I love that though. I mean, and I think that a lot of readers, I mean, you get readers who want the spice, and
Right.
that's great, and we love them. But there's a lot to that sensuality
Yeah.
that isn't about taking your clothes off and
No.
isn't about, yeah,
No, an
it's
emotional connection to me is stronger than a physical one. So
mhm,
like, when think of the person that you love, you fell in them, yes, because of what they look like. I actually fell in love with my husband's a physician. I actually remember the moment I fell in love with him is when we were working on a patient. And I saw the compassion and the humanity that came through him and I was like, "Oh my God, this is my hero come to life." And that was it for me. So the emotional
oh,
aspect is much stronger for me. Yeah, the sex is fun. It's fun to write. It's fun to read. But I really like the emotional connection better.
yeah, no, absolutely. All right, Peggy, this has been wonderful, and unfortunately or fortunately, you and I could probably sit down and talk for
Too
days.
long. Too long. Yeah.
So, so I am going to go ahead and stop this and invite everybody to check out Peggy's work. Available on Amazon.
PeggyJaeger.com everywhere. Peggy Jaeger
Yep.
on Instagram, Peggy Jaeger on TikTok, Peggy. It's my name. And I love my
Okay.
name. So it's easy to
So,
find me everywhere.
and Peggy has been kind enough to let me read the first chapter of
Newest book, perfect match.
Perfect Match. And that will be coming middle of the month. This is going to go up on the first of the month. So that'll be coming in the middle of the month. And I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm a new to
And
you writer, so it'll be interesting. I'm a new to you writer. You've never read before,
okay,
so
yes.
it'll be nice to know your insights. Put
Okay,
it in
cool.
there. Get in there. I love it.
I will let you
No
know.
ego.
Um All right. And I hope you get a chance to check out Build a Book Boyfriend and buildabookboyfriend.com and use the chatbot there to find your next perfect book boyfriend.
Love it.
Um, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you
Bye
for
bye.
having me.